Alright, this is going to be still using the synthetic division that we talked about yesterday, so it'll be pretty easy. Just going to have some different types of questions. The last stuff that we end with is only stuff that gets a little bit lengthy on this. But this question that reads is x minus 5 a factor of f of x equals x cubed minus 7x squared plus 13x minus 15. So it says, is x minus 5 a factor of that? Well, what it means to be a factor of something is that it goes into it evenly. Factors of 6 are 1 and 6, 2 and 3. Those go into it evenly with no remainder. So what we can do to check and see if that's a factor, we can use the synthetic division that we reviewed over yesterday and see if we get a 0 in the remainder spot. A 0 in the remainder spot means it goes into it evenly. Okay, so it's the same stuff to start off as yesterday. I want to have a 1x cubed, a negative 7x squared, a 13x, and a negative 15. Now, x minus 5 is the factor, so what's going to go outside my box? Positive. Very good. Positive 5. All right, we'll start this show off by dropping the 1. 1 times 5. Then we add negative 7 plus 5. Then we multiply negative 2 times 5. Good. Then we add 13 and negative 10. Good. Then we multiply 15. Then we add 0. So it came up with a remainder of 0. So it went into it evenly. So when the question says, is that a factor of it, since we had a remainder of 0, our answer is yes. If we'd have gotten anything other than a 0 in the remainder spot, we'd have said no. Couldn't stand it any longer. Alright, so not too shabby on something like that. Okay, now, go back out what you need on that one. Okay, this one says f of x, changing the directions already on you, f of x equals 8x cubed plus 70x squared plus 83x minus 105. The directions here say factor that function given that negative 7 is a 0. Okay? So that means, negative 7 is a 0 of it. So if negative 7 is a 0, you've got to think backwards here. What would the factor be that gets you negative 7? Okay, what is she talking about? Look back at the previous problem that we did. X minus 5 was the factor. 5 is what we plugged in. Good, Shelby. So this one's saying negative 7 is what you plug in. So that comes from the factor of x plus 7. Okay? I don't need to know that right now, but I do when I write my answer in a little bit. So I want to hold on to that for there. Okay, we're going to go ahead and throw our negative 7 outside of here. We're going to still use synthetic division even to factor. Isn't that crazy? Then I've got an 8x cubed, a 70x squared, an 83x, and a negative 105. These numbers look a little bigger. I don't know if I can do this one in my head or not. We'll see as we go. Drop your 8. 8 times negative 7. Oh, yeah, that's not bad. It's negative 56. Add there. That's 14, isn't it? 14 times negative 7 is negative 98. Tell me if I'm doing that wrong. Add that. That's negative 15. Negative 15 times negative 7, I know has to be 105 unless I've screwed up. Why do I know it has to be that? They told me that, right? They gave me that, so I knew that had to be a 0. All right, so now this is 8x squared plus 14x minus 15. The directions said to factor. So we got to see if that can factor any farther. We got it down to a squared, a quadratic, which we know how to factor. Okay, so what you would do here, remember this from first semester, I'm sure, 8 times c, what's 8 times negative 15? I think it's negative 120, check me, make sure. Negative 120, so I need the factors of negative 120 that add to a positive 14. Well, you could have a 12 and a 10, but that wouldn't make a 14 anyway. That's good thinking though. Thanks for trying. I wish some other people would too. Okay.
Maybe it's 20 and 6.
Attaboy, Mr. Q. Good job. Alright, so now I'm going to take those since that, I need to flip the signs on, don't I, Scout? I wrote them down wrong. Because it's got to make a positive 14. So it'll be 20 and negative 6. That's what Scout said. So now I got to take those and substitute them in for the 14. Okay, so that's going to be 8x squared plus 20x minus 6x minus 15. Y'all remember what we did first semester after we plugged those in? Group, very good. Group those two up. Alright, so GCF of this first group looks to me about like 4x. What do y'all think? Alright, we take a 4x on that first group. Leaves me with a 2x plus 5. Second one looks like a negative 3. Divide those by negative 3, that leaves me with a 2x plus 5. Okay, so to write this now, we had 2x plus 5 twice, so I take that, 2x plus 5. Then I had a 4x minus 3. This is not anything new, just adding on to what we did before. Okay, then remember the very beginning when they gave me that negative 7, that meant it had a factor of x plus 7, so I've got to include that. And there's the final factored answer. Yo. Okay, don't forget to add that one that they gave you on there. Okay, so that tag teamed old stuff with synthetic division. I think we probably need to do one more of those, don't you?
Yeah, probably.
All right, good call over there, Hard Club. Here we go. Everybody got that one? Okay. This one says f of x is 6x cubed plus 19x squared plus 2x minus 3. It says factor that given that negative 3 is a 0. So if negative 3 is a 0, I'm going to use that to condense this down to a quadratic level. So I'm going to say 6x cubed, 19x squared, 2x, negative 3. Drop your 6. 6 times negative 3 is negative 18. Add and get 1. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. Add and get negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 3 is a positive 3. Add and get 0. Okay? So what we have to finish factoring now is 6x squared plus 1x minus 1. Okay, this one should be a little easier for you to figure out the factors. You don't got 120, which has a ton of them. You just got a times c is negative 6. Factors of negative 6 that add to a positive 1. Everybody ought to be able to figure these out. That kid, it's my genius class. Alright, let's plug those dudes in. 6x squared plus 3x minus 2x minus 1. GCF of that first parentheses, what you bet your boots it is? 3x. So that leaves me with 2x plus what? 1. Good job. Now this one's already got the 2x and the 1, but its sign's wrong. So what's my GCF they're going to be? Good, badly, negative 1. That leaves you with a positive 2x and a positive 1. So what we got twice, 2x plus 1. Let me bump this up, what we took out, 3x minus 1. Good job, Austin and Katie, remembering that x plus 3 we need to add. They told me negative 3 was a 0, so that means x plus 3 goes there. Woo-hoo! Alright, so on that problem and the previous one both, you were given a 0. So you were given something to start with. The dilemma when these become a real pain in the butt is when you're not given a 0 and you have to use the guess and check to figure it out. Now luckily there is a method to guess and check, because if not, it could be any number in the world, which could mean you'd have to guess and check infinite number of stuff there. So what we do when we're not given a 0, if I've got f of x equals 6x to the 4th minus 7x cubed minus 18x squared plus 13x plus 6. There's your function. All right, when we're given this, the directions say, first off, we're going to list all the possible zeros. They didn't give me one to start with like the previous two problems. List all the possible zeros and then find which ones are actually real zeros of it. All right, we did this in Algebra 2, so it's going to come back to you a little bit. What we have to do on this is we take the factors of our constant and we put those over the factors of our leading coefficient. That means the one with the highest power. So in this case, our constant is 6, right? It's the one without a variable. And our leading coefficient, the highest power, is also 6. Now you don't get to just put 1. 6 over 6 is 1. You have to put all the factors, all the different options on this, and you got to also include positives and negatives, but we could just throw the plus minus sign on them. All right, so factors of 6 on the top. 1, 2, 3, and 6, right? Same thing on the bottom. Factors of 6 are 1, 2, 3, and 6. But what you have to do with that now is list all the different possibilities that can come from that. Like, you could have 1 over 1, so 1 is a possible zero. Then I could have 1/2. Then I could have 1/3. Then I could have 1/6. Okay, I've used the 1 on the top on all of them, so I'm going to go to the 2 now. 2 over 1, I'm going to have 2. Okay, the 2 over 2 I already have, right? Because that's 1, so I don't have to write it again. 2 over 3, and then 2 over 6. I already have that one, don't I? Isn't 2 over 6 already there? Okay, so I'm done with the 2. Move to your 3 now. 3, good. What about 3/2? Do I have it yet? No, got to get it there. What about 3/3? Already got it. What about 3/6? Already got it. Good. So we got one more left. 6 over 1. What about 6 over 2? Got it already because we got the 3. What about 6 over 3? Got it already with the 2, right? And 6 over 6. Got it already with the 1. So all of those are possible zeros. And remember, those can all be positive, negative. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 possible zeros. So when we start doing trial and error, if we're bad at this, we could pick a lot of them that don't work out of those 18, couldn't we? If we're bad number guessers. But at least it's down to 18. Because if not, we just have to be trying random numbers and fractions till the cows come home. So, yep. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put my function, the 6x to the 4th, I'm going to put it in my box, and then I'll scoot it up so everybody can see it. 6x to the 4th, negative 7x cubed, negative 18x squared, 13x, and 6. All right. So now, out of our possible answers that I've got circled right above it there, we got to just start trial and error, guess and check. Pick one you want to see if it gets us a 0 or not. 2, everybody over here said. So I'm going to try 2. What I'm looking for here is for it to go evenly into it, for it to get me a 0 in the remainder spot. If it does, I get to grab it. If not, I got to start over. Okay, so I drop my 6. 6 times 2 is 12. Negative 7 plus 12 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. Negative 18 plus 10 is negative 8. Negative 8 times 2 is negative 16. Negative 16 plus 13 is negative 3. Hey, negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Negative 6 plus 6 is 0. Woo! That doesn't happen very often to me. I'm not a good guesser. Good job, girls, on that. We got 2. Okay? Now, look at what our original function started off with the highest power is. 6 to the 4th. We have to keep going with this until we get it to a squared, because that's the only place where we know how to do something new with it. So I got to do another, right now, my new line of answers would be cubed, right? So I got to do another line of that. Okay? All right, so still choosing from the same 18 numbers up there. A half. 6 times a half is 3. 5 plus 3 is 8. 8 times a half is 4. Negative 8 plus 4 is negative 4. Negative 4 times a half is negative 2, so that got me negative 5. So, Austin's like me, a half doesn't work.
I'm thinking 3.
Okay, the other Austin wants to try 3. And I am proud of y'all so far that you picked numbers.
I'm just kidding, I want 1.
Okay, what's 1? You would be surprised every year when we do this, I'll have somebody yell a number that's not in my circle up there. So at least y'all are staying in that. Thank you. 1, Austin Bull, 1.
1.
Alright. 6 times 1 is 6. 5 and 6 is 11. 11 times 1 is 11. 8 and negative 8 and 11 is 3. Woo, Austin, good job. 3 times 1 is 3, so that gets me a 0. So 1 is a 0. Okay, good job. Now, started off with a 4th power, so this row here that we got first was a 3rd, so now I'm to the 2nd. So your options now when you get to that row, you can do another level of trial and error and guess and check and do that again. I always jump ship on that when I get to a squared and I do the quadratic formula. Okay, so is everybody on board with that? Alright, nobody objected. So this means my A is 6, remember quadratic formula, my B is 11, and my C is 3. 6x squared plus 11x plus 3, everybody remembering that? So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
I don't know.
After we finish, I have a funny story to tell you about that. I actually know what you're talking about, and it's very rare that I know what a musical thing is, other than a guitar. So I'll tell you about that story in a minute. Alright, 24 times 3, what is that, 62?
Yeah. No idea. 72.
72, so 121 minus 72. Everybody got an answer underneath that radical for me? $49. Okay, Valentina got a 49 underneath the radical. The square root of 49 is 7. So I need to do negative 11 plus 7 and divide it by 12. And negative 11 minus 7 and divide it by 12. Negative 11 plus 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Is that 4? So that would be negative 4 12 is negative 1/3. Negative 11 minus 7 is negative 18. Take 6 out, negative 3 halves.
Yep. That's about right.
Is that not what you got?
I got it.
Is that right, Austin?
That's what I got.
Negative 3 halves. Alright, so the question originally asked for the zeros. So right here we got negative 1/3 and negative 3 halves. And then from y'all's good guess and check up there, we got 2 and 1. When it just asks for the zeros, that's it, you're done. Okay? But other thing they could ask for are the factors. So just make sure you read the question and ask what and know what they ask for. It's not difficult, but a lot of people will screw up on it just because they didn't read the question. If they wanted the factors, to get a negative 1/3 as a 0, it would have to come from x plus 1/3, right? To get a negative 3 halves, it would come from x plus 3 halves. To get a positive 2, it would be x minus 2. And to get a positive 1, it would be x plus 1. So this would be the factors if they asked for that. This would be the zeros if they asked for that. So just make sure you read and see what they ask you for, so you know where to go on that. Alright, I got one more type of problem that we need to look at. I don't tend to use, I try not to, every now and then I push the wrong button on a computer, but I try not to give you a ton of those types, because if you're a bad guesser, you could spend the whole class period on one of those. So I try not to give you a ton of those like test time or something. Alright, let's do one more, a different kind. I mean, I got what you need on that one? Alright, I got negative 2, 1 and 0, and then f of 2 equals 6. Okay, this is all the stuff they give me on this. So this problem is taking a U-turn from what we've seen previously. The directions say find a function f, which just means we're going to write f of x. Find a function f defined by a polynomial that has the zeros of -2, 1, and 0, and f of 2 equals 6. Alright, so we know what most of it's going to entail. To get a -2, that came from x plus 2. To get a 1, that came from x minus 1. To get a 0, x plus or minus 0 is just x, right? So we know how we're going to start with that. F of x is going to equal, that's where you're going to start. But in these things, there's always going to be an unknown in the front. Most books that I use just call that the A. Okay, so what we have to do to figure out the A is use this other stuff that they gave me right here. This says f of 2 equals 6. So that means if I plug a 2 in for all the x's, it's going to equal 6. Okay, so I'm going to say 6 equals A times, and now at every place I got an x, I'm putting a 2 in. Where'd that 2 come from? It's what the other piece of information they gave me. And now I can use that to solve for A. 2 plus 2 is 4. 2 minus 1 is 1. So that gets me 8A, right? Everybody with me? 6 equals 8A. What do I do to figure out A? Divide by 8. So I take 2 out. My A is 3/4. So all I have to do now is take this 3/4 and rewrite. Instead of an A, I put a 3/4 there. And that'll be my final answer. So we're going to have f of x equals 3/4 times x plus 2 times x minus 1 times x. The directions said write the function. That's it. Now what if I wrote it that way, but Reed put them in a different order? Does it matter? No, because that's all multiplication. The multiplication can go in any order. 2 times 4, 4 times 2 is the same thing in most countries. I hope it is, but I don't know. I don't know. I get scared when I start exchanging money in foreign countries. I'm like, I'm getting ripped off. I know it. Alright, everybody alright on that stuff?
Stay in America.
You gotta get out every now and then, Austin, and broaden your horizons. Alright, tomorrow's stuff, we start graphing some of these. And the reason these zeros are important to us when we start graphing them, zeros are where it crosses the x-axis. So we'll be able to use that to help us find some points on the graph. And it's also a little bit easy because most of them you graph in your calculator.